So hi Devi, thank you so much for joining us today. And to begin with, if you could just share your experience of when and how did fCxO happen for you, and what was it that you were doing before this?
Thanks for having me, Deepak. And it all started when I was working at Atlassian as a principal engineer. I think by then I have had 18 years of experience in the industry and working in different domains, different kinds of scales of organizations also,
Yeah,
global, Indian, remote, physical spaces, and startup environments versus
amazing.
MNCs. Yeah, I had it all. And while working with Atlassian, I think I had this crazy idea of, or thought of, what am I doing actually? I had this question of,
Okay.
what am I doing? Why am I doing? What am I doing? What I am doing. So I said, um, let me take a break. I want to take a break and see what I want to do. So I quit uh, just to explore. I took 1 year to explore, and in that during that 1 year, I think I have volunteered in a school teaching fourth grade English, and and tech volunteering for one NGO.
Okay.
Slowly, I mean, it evolved, though I did not have plans, clear plans, by the time I ended up. And I was hanging out with the people who wanted to build social startups, their own social startups also, especially in climate change or education space. And by hanging out, I think I got that clarity of how good am I, or how suitable am I for starting my own social startup, which
This
was
is great. It's
yeah.
good hard
and
startup.
and now you know
Yeah,
that I'm here. You,
yeah,
you know the answer, what it came.
yeah.
So uh, and the I could enjoy these two small things. The teaching in that school has put me in touch with what I really like, uh, and little bit of what I shouldn't be doing at least emerged very clearly, that
Nice.
I don't want to join another MNC, or I don't want to start up on my own. That became very clear. And all of a sudden, I mean, it just serendipity that I happened to see Lobo's fCxO post on LinkedIn, and I when I saw that fCxO description, I said, "Wow!" Now I could see actually where I fit in. Though I'm
Perfect.
coming from tech background,
Hmm.
and I could not actually see a link on how I can be a part of social sector, and I was maybe targeting a wrong thing by looking at how I can start on my own. But I know my skills, and this is how I can actually contribute to. So that
Great.
made it so easy. Um, yeah, that's how fCxO has
Great.
happened.
And you brought out three different points which kind of relate to the next part of the conversation. Where one is that you're coming from a place of having it all to a place of NGOs which do not have a lot or at
Right,
all at
right,
times, from
right,
funds to data to how to deal with
right,
data to how to have tech or even people or human
right,
resources.
right.
So that's one. So how's that transition been? Second, where you're coming from also having volunteered for education organizations. And with NGOs, we know that there's a lot of education that has to happen before they actually understand why tech is required. And even if tech is required, how much do they delve into it? And the third part, where you said that you wanted to start something of your own, but it was serendipity where you explored that instead of starting something of my own, probably this just fits. So might as well just contribute and continue with this. Again, a case with NGOs where a lot of them are just trying to build excessively, gather funds for interventions and innovation that just might not be required. Whereas they could just build on something that's already existing.
Right.
And on all three of these, I think tech for dev kind of fills one or the other gaps. But I'd like to hear it from you that how's that transition been of working with these NGOs which do not have it all, which have a lot of learning scope, and then which are trying to build things which are not necessary to be built. So how's that been for you?
That's really large scope question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, the transition itself from a big MNC where we had it all. As an architect, actually, I should confess that I have never had a reason or a need to put in costing in my mind while putting in an
True.
architectural solution. It should be, there are other criteria, they were there, scalability, reliability, observability, 99.9999. Can I add one more 9 there, right? That was my target till then for a few years before coming out of that space. But here, even if it doesn't work, it's okay for a day or two actually. But um, it should be affordable. It should be user intuitive or usable, etc., etc. But I think before getting that, understanding the space, the social sector itself, I did not. The I have got that in the understanding that I didn't know anything of the sector only after joining Tech for Dev. Um, Being with people, hanging around, especially with the other fCxOs around, it has given me a lot of scope to think and how they work with the NGOs in their work. How do they talk? How do they suggest? How do they question? I think that helped me a lot. For the first 3 months, I was only working with one NGO, but hanging out with Thomas or Vinod in their engagements, basically, just to see how things happen. That was a big, I think that gave me a big enough canvas to gather stuff on how things work. And not having it all, that's a big thing. So CMHLP, the first engagement, the very first engagement that I have taken it up, they are in Pune and they have 5 different programs running, but there's no single tech resource inside
Okay.
in-house, right? They do one of the program has fortunately could secure some interns, very good interns, and through connections. But otherwise, the tech is kind of non-existent in-house. And there is ILS, the parent organization, which would provide all these decisions of whether to use Microsoft or Google, kind of that kind of decisions, or the server space, etc. But inside, what's happening or what should happen, what can be, what should it be, or what could it be, also is kind of very vague by the time I joined. But the people are smart. They're all researchers. They have program managers. They have statisticians also, but not um, very much the statistics which are required in this. I mean, in the data oriented world, right? So there is gap between what's going on there and outside, and and the cost. So for every evaluation that I make, everything that I propose, cost has been constantly, or cost should be constantly there, right?
Yeah.
The moment that I look at it, look at a vendor solution or a platform, I would go to the pricing page first after checking the high level requirements, etc., etc. But it's totally a mind shift in for myself. Um, and coming to the last question that I think you were um, navigating to is, do they build upon? Can
Yeah.
we build upon, right? So I think they're the tech solutions, especially if there are open source or free solutions, the NGOs are very much looking forward for them to be shared, or oh, that's open source solution. Can I have it for free? Kind of things. But at the same time, when it comes to their data, uh, the same lens that I mean, some other tech company or an org is giving their IP. The code is our IP
Yeah.
for a software company, right? Or if it is for a software company, they're putting it in open source and letting everybody else use it. Can my research data or can my user data Can it be used by somebody else
Else.
as a building block?
Okay.
I think this is what I was asking myself when I came again to the sector. I think it's been hard to maybe answer that to myself, or to convince them. They have their own reasons to say no. Yeah, but that's still a question that keeps me pondering about.
Interesting, because that again links to this trust deficit that is there in a sector which actually is working with these people who cannot look up to anyone else.
Right.
At times, not even like the bigger industries or government at that. So, how does fCxO actually fill that trust deficit? How do you make yourself, get into the shoes of an organization level person which can actually understand that NGO, the need that they have, and make them also understand that whatever you're suggesting is not coming from, like, say, a high costing or high input or high, you know, people intensive approach, but from the best possible solution that they can have at that present moment. So, how do you fill that trust deficit for NGOs?
Yeah. So filling in trust deficit rather than trying to fill, maybe. Uh, so when they get into challenges or expanding their program, when we talk about that, there are moments or cases where I could show some data, open data, that they were like, wow, this exists. And at that moment I should be actually saying, or building upon that, right, that context, that look, there is data that is based upon somebody else's work which is accessible to you, and you had that wow moment, and now this may be usable. It may be useful for a corollary, or for us to go or not, I mean, for us to take a decision or not. It can be useful in many ways, or use the data or whatever. uh, but same, can we look at our data in the same way? Can this be useful for some other organization? What could be the reasons for that org who has put their data in the open repositories, right? How will it be beneficial for us? Would it build our brand or identity as a center? Uh, okay. I mean, I would just ask these questions and leave it there, right? So people who get the questions, they tend to think about these things, and it takes a lot of iterations and multiple of those moments, like, oh yeah, maybe I should, maybe
Okay.
it'll start with maybe, and hopefully it'll happen
Great.
one day.
And to just end the conversation and also picking up from where you left off. So there's a lot of maybe organizations who probably be looking at this and wondering, maybe I would want to engage with an fCxO, but how do they do that? So how do they apply an fCxO? Should there be a homework that you should do beforehand? Because again, a high level person coming in and there's just not being anything done as a base of it would not be effective enough. So how does that happen?
Yeah, I think this was one question that I asked Lobo also before joining. Like, how do you make sure that our time is being used? How do you make sure that we are not taken for granted?
Yeah.
All these questions which were there on top of my mind, I think.
Yeah.
And when he explained that we do have a very strong application process, and we do look at different aspects of where they are. Do they really need tech? Is tech can tech solve their problems that they have, etc. So the way that the application is laid out is, it asks for the challenges, and is tech on in top three, if I remember it right, in top three priorities for this year, right? So it asks very clear questions, and at least if you don't have that clarity before the application process, by the end of it, I think the applicant would have that clarity. And one of us look at the applications which are incoming, and again engage with them, talk to them in person, and hey, one thing, this might not be actually a tech problem. It could be a process problem.
Yeah.
Do you want to actually attack or approach it that way? We have conversations like that also. It's not that we don't want to engage with the organizations, but uh, tech might not be actually needed for that particular problem that they are highlighting. So, but for the orgs where tech is really needed, I think it'll be very evident from the application process,
Yeah.
and we kick it on.
All right.
Yeah.
On that note, thank you so much, Devi, for joining us. It's been brilliant listening to you from like how you're coming from a place of having a lot to with working with these people who do not have that much, and then also kind of learning alongside where you're also learning and also educating them on how to deal with tech, and create seamless interfaces and interactions. So thank you so much for joining us,
Thank
and
you
hope
so
this is helpful
much.
for others.